With me today is Dr. Chris Bessent, and I am so delighted because I feel like I've been a voice in the wilderness saying, no, you don't have to do it all one day. But Dr. Bessent has done a myriad of things in her long career, just like mine. I think we're both 30 some years into practice.
Yes.
And now we've both sort of segued into a practice of a different sort. So, for those of you that are not familiar with what Dr. Bessent's been doing, I just want to show you a couple of the projects she's working on. One is the Simple Food Project, which is an awesome approach to create a very balanced diet that takes more of a raw type approach, but in freeze dried. But this is the path that she has found to be most successful for her patients, adding in real food in a dried capacity. In this way, people are able to really get one of the better options for their pets. And then the second thing that we're getting started with is uh, Chinese herbs that are approachable for the pet parent. So traditional Chinese veterinary medicine is wonderful, but it's very complicated. Yet there are some products and some herbals that you can figure out, okay, my pet's itchy, so I could use allergy. But Dr. Bessent's, just see my southerns coming back out, has just done amazing stuff. And as far as creating these formulas, and more importantly, creating a complete line of supplements that really approach most of the health conditions our pets are experiencing later in life, hopefully, but also a way to help prevent them from appearing. So that's really where I think it is just so critical. In veterinary medicine, we don't do enough to actually prevent disease from happening. So welcome, Dr. Bessent, and I'm so happy you're here. So when did you make this switch from practicing you've also got the prescription line of products for veterinarians as well, which I love, and we've worked together with those many years ago. So how did you make this big segue?
Oh boy. It really came about in that you and I, our lives' paths have been very similar. So started with traditional medicine, saw the downfalls of it, and then sought out alternative medicine that could give us more tools to treat every patient that came our way. So I was practicing all day, every day, and using Chinese herbs and chiropractic and recommending food therapy. And I had these wonderful pet stores in our area that were fabulous. And there were so many really great Chinese herbs that are very safe, can be easily applied. And that's how we started Herbsmith Inc. And so Herbsmith with the OTC formulas are true traditional Chinese formulas that I've used in my veterinary practice for many years, and knew that they were very safe, knew they were easy enough to apply, and then I just needed the network. So I partnered with other stores in my area and other veterinarians, and got approached by another company that said, hey, do you want to take this nationally, globally? And I said, yeah. Because at that point in time, you'll remember this, there was about 1,200 holistic vets in the country. And if there were enough holistic vets to contact every animal that needed them, great. But there certainly wasn't. 1,200 vets was not enough to help every dog. And I felt like if Herbsmith could bring these OTC products, so get them into really high quality pet stores, into other veterinarians' hands that maybe don't want to learn all of Chinese medicine, but want to have the benefit of Chinese herbs, this was a way to be able to get more of these fabulous herbal formulas out to more people, but most importantly, out to more pets. That if And it was kind of a win-win for everybody. So if the pet store could sell a product that was fabulous, that owner would love it. And they would also think, ooh, there's something to Chinese medicine, and maybe I need to find out more about it and find a holistic veterinarian in my area that can help me. So that's really how Herbsmith came about. And we have Herbsmith, which is the OTC formulas, which are the very safe, easy to use, highly effective, easy to apply, that can be sold to any consumer, any pet parent, anywhere. But then we also have the RX herbs, which are herbs that either are not as safe, not as easy to apply, or they're safe and easy to apply, but they really have conditions that need veterinary supervision. So, for example, the herbal formula for seizures is very safe, is a fabulous formula, but I really never want to have a veterinarian not be involved with it. So that particular formula is by prescription only, more because I want the veterinarian involved all the way along the line. So then Simple Food Project was an extension of that. So as you well know, animals that eat well heal well, and animals that eat well thrive and live fabulous lives. And I had all these amazingly wonderful pet parents that came in that were feeding raw, and they were grinding up the rabbit every day and feeding their pets. I knew that the majority of people in the world wouldn't do that. And that why did we as pet parents get convinced that kibble was the right way? Because it's inexpensive and it's easy. All you had to do is scoop it, dump it in the bowl, shelf stable. And the best way to get a raw diet into a dog is to try to get as close to that as possible. And that's how I kind of got into freeze drying, because freeze drying is a way to get almost as good a nutrition as a raw diet is, but in a very scoopable, non-icky way. But it can be high meat content and organs, and has a pasteurization step, so it has great food safety. And then I applied Chinese medicine to that. So in each one of the Simple Food Project recipes, we have warming, cooling, and neutral, which are basic food energetics that if you have a dog with allergies, then let's go with the cooling formula. Let's go with duck and trout that is going to bring down the heat and the inflammation on an everyday level. So I incorporated the thought process of Chinese medicine also into the food as well. So that's how the Simple Food Project was born. But then,
That's
above
awesome.
and beyond that,
but wait, there's more.
We own our own facilities. So we have two 85,000 square foot facility and a 45,000 square foot facility, where we literally get the single herbs in, we get all the nutraceuticals in as single ingredients with certificate of analysis. We get all the meats in and the organic fruits and vegetables, and we do everything. We do the blending and the freeze drying and the packaging, with the whole idea that what was most important is the high quality of the products that we produce, that we take to market. Because as you know, Ruth, it was kind of a novel concept.
Yes.
I kind of got pushed under the bus by some of my colleagues in the very beginning with Herbsmith, because they felt like I was giving away the secret sauce. And I felt like it was the opposite. How dare you not give away the secret sauce? Because we want to get to as many pet parents as possible. And even though I'll never see some of those pets in my lifetime, I know that the herbs that I made are going to help them. So it really has changed since then. That was kind of the old school way of thinking, and it's not that way of thinking anymore. Right now, it kind of broke that barrier into, if we can get more herbs into animals, there's so many more proactive things we can do rather than waiting to have to be reactive.
Right on. And I caught the same flack. It's like, how dare you break our sickness care model and actually keep pets from getting sick? And that's what
Yes.
I admire about you is you stuck to your guns, and it just
Thank you.
is astonishing what you have accomplished. And I think we take a slightly different perspective on food as far as I prefer a cooked method, but as you say so clearly on your website, it is not a one size fits all thing. You have to see how your pet best responds to food. And if you start there and find the right way for your pet, you're going to be leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else as far as keeping the pet healthy, preventing the illness from happening in the first place. And I agree. I mean, I think we've in veterinary medicine, it's been just heartbreaking to hear from people all over the country that don't have access to holistic veterinarians, but just they're getting blown off by conventional medicine. And even when the pet's super sick and they've spent literally thousands of dollars, they're not getting the answers they need, even from a conventional standpoint. And that's not a great one for chronic disease. So
Absolutely.
that, I mean, kudos to you for doing what you're doing. That's, I think, the more we can sort of decentralize veterinary medicine, if you will, and make it more approachable, the better off everybody, every pet will be. And that's part
Right.
of what my next project is to work on a pet health coach program so we can get this taken out to everybody that needs it. I spent some years traveling in the much of the American West, and in those rural communities, they're lucky if they have one vet, and that
Mm.
one vet is overrun. Just trying to keep up with all the pets that are super sick. They just don't even have time to think about truly preventive medicine. So this is so
And I think that
exciting.
you're absolutely right. The standard model of veterinary medicine is that, what's our first question we ask? What's the problem? What do we need to fix for you when the
Exactly.
pet is presented? And how often does somebody come in and just say, I just want to keep my animal healthy? And the average vet would be like, well, you got to have a problem for me to fix it. And so this whole
Yeah.
concept of proactive, preventative, maintaining health isn't really the way that veterinary medicine thinks. And so thank God people like you and I and other holistic veterinarians in the country, in the world, are really pushing more for let's be proactive, because there's so many things that we could prevent that rather than waiting for it to happen.
Amen to that. And I think that's one of the big things on the human side. Healthcare on the human side is sort of an unspeakable nightmare. But some years ago, when President Obama signed the act that started the preventive care concept into human medicine, that really had the potential to change things. And then, of course, COVID changed things into a whole new realm. But you
Yeah.
said specifically on your site, what you're after is making sure that the pet, that individual person's pet, gets the right support nutritionally to help prevent disease. And so I think, your message is loud and clear. And thank you for that.
And the
So
really cool
there,
part about it is
yeah,
that we have this team. It doesn't eliminate veterinary medicine at all. In fact, it's the
mhm,
opposite. If you think of abundance as, there's enough for everyone out there, the healthier we keep pets, the better they'll respond to surgery. So when they do need surgery, they'll
right,
heal better. When they
right,
need pharmaceuticals, they'll tolerate them better. What we do through supplements and herbs and the right food is build this solid foundation of health that is good for everybody, good for all veterinarians, certainly good for all pet parents, and absolutely good for all pets as well.
right on, right on. And that's it. I mean, I can remember in, that's been a long time, back in the, back in 99, when Ron Schultz released his first paper showing 3-year duration of immunity, uh, of most of the vaccines, and probably more than that. I was at an American Animal Hospital Association conference, and everybody was freaked out because it's like, what? What? We don't have, well, and that's the truth. We never really looked at why every year. And his timing could not have been more perfect because that's when we started realizing, these cats are developing fibrosarcomas from where we've given them vaccines. And it turned out there was a lot more to the story. But this is it. I think instead of veterinarians relying on vaccines and heartworm prevention and flea prevention and all of that, it will allow them the time to go back and start seeing how can we actually help this pet parent plan out this pet's life so that they truly feel well for all of it. And if they do get sick, then, as you just said, the stuff that we give them to help them feel better doesn't take such a toll on them. So right on to you.
Absolutely.
We've got a question from Lily about joint supplements, because that's certainly a good one. We can keep the joints happy, and I know you've got a couple of different formulas available for that as well.
Yeah, I think that that joint care is absolutely one of those things that we can be proactive on. So in the real world, if a dog ate as the way they should, let's say they would catch that bunny and they would eat them, and they would eat everything. They would eat the bones and the cartilage and the synovial fluid, the fluids in the joints, and that would be their way of replenishing their body and giving their joints the basic active ingredients, the basic substances that the joints need to keep cartilage healthy and to keep the joint fluid thick and viscous. And so if we're not doing that, because the average person is not going to feed a rabbit, and if you're not doing that, then you need to supplement in the diet. And I think supplements have become such a buzzword, but in reality, you got to think about supplementing is adding things back into the diet that you're not getting with the regular food. And so, again, on my soapbox, but this idea of complete and balance is completely misleading, to the average person. They're like, I don't need any supplements because it's complete and balanced. But it's only complete and balanced for macro and micronutrients, and that's based upon an AFCO standard. So is there any glucosamine? Is there any hyaluronic acid? Is there anything to nourish the joints in average dog food? There really isn't. And the reason there isn't is because in the massive food production system, when an animal is slaughtered, they're taking the bones and throwing them away. And so they're not popping the cartilage caps off and putting it into the food. Or if that dog, say came across, because they're scavengers, came across a cow that died, they would chew on the bones and they would chew on the cartilage caps, and that would be their way of nourishing their joints as well. So we're not doing that, so we need to. So for joint supplements, I think we need to give them the basic ingredients that they would have gotten through the food that they eat. So hyaluronic acid is the basic ingredient of synovial fluid. Glucosamine, if you look at the biochemistry of all of these nutrients for joints, they all come down to polyglucosaminoglycans, which the base molecule for that is glucosamine. And then certainly chondroitin is a buzzword that many people know about. So absolutely, a dog should be supplemented with hyaluronic acid, glucosamine, plus or minus chondroitin from the time they're eating real food. So from the time their puppy's on. And it used to be thought that you didn't give a dog glucosamine until they were old and arthritic. And that's crazy. That's so far behind the ball. You should be supplementing that diet with everything that dog needs for its basic building blocks of life, which is hyaluronic acid, glucosamine, chondroitin, and then certainly using some things like MSM. And you asked about feeding omegas. Absolutely. Omega-3 fatty acids are incredibly important, not only for joint health, but pretty much for everything in the entire body, from cardiac health to muscular health to vision to just circulation,
Brain.
just about everything. And if you think about it, what would dogs eat? They would eat grass-fed beef. They would eat grass-fed meats, like the rabbit. They would eat salmon that was filled with omega-3 fatty acids. They would eat all of that every day as scavenger carnivores. So absolutely, I think they need to have omegas as well. But here's where the difficult part comes in, Lily, is that unfortunately, you need to do the math. And if you just get a joint supplement that says hip and joint chew, by law, it only has to have a minuscule amount of it in that product to be labeled that way. So know that for every 20 pounds or every 30 pounds of dog, you should be getting about 500 milligrams of glucosamine twice a day. And if you actually sat down and did the math on most of the hip and joint chews, you'd find out that it doesn't even come close to the amount that it should. And I saw that. I'm sure, Dr. Ruth, you see it as well in your veterinary patients, that they would come to us at 8 and 9 years of age with arthritis, and the number one thing is we need to get them on glucosamine to nourish their joints. And the poor owner says, "Oh, I've been doing it for his entire lifetime." Well, then you look at the product and you do the math, and 500 milligrams might be in the entire bag, not the chew that you give each day. And so I think when you go to places like Herbsmith or to other really good supplement companies, they do the math for you and make sure that you're getting a therapeutic dose. Unfortunately, there's no regulation on it whatsoever. That just because it says hip and joint means it's a minuscule amount, it doesn't mean that it has a therapeutic level. But
that's exactly it. That's critical, because people will go to Amazon and they'll look at a supplement and it'll either be proprietary, which means, yeah, it's got this stuff in there. You have no idea how much, but they also, again, have no idea how much they're looking for. And that's so true. It's like a lot of marketing tricks. For instance, in most of the bags of food, it'll say, oh, it's, high in omega-3 fatty acids. Well, it's all from flaxseed oil, which your pet actually can't absorb. So it looks good on paper, but this is it. I mean, the industry, pet food industry, veterinary medicine, supplement industry has made this so confusing for people. They think they're doing good because they got the list of stuff they know they should get, but they have no idea that it generally is not anywhere near a therapeutic or efficacious dose. So
and that's what I love about your idea of doing your consultations is absolutely that. Bring it to Dr. Ruth, and Dr. Ruth can do the math and say, yeah, this might be $12 for a bag of it, but it's not even worth $1 because it's a half a day's supply. It's not a 30-day supply. So the beauty is we are in this age of instant knowledge that we can Google things and try to find out the details and look past the window of shiny things to what's really true and what is going to give you that foundation. And so I think more and more veterinarians are going to be starting to take your route of being proactive health consultants, health wellness consultants, rather than just treating disease.
I sure hope so, because that was so frustrating to me. I had some practitioners in my area, come to me and say, how did you get your practice away from, all the stuff, the vaccines, the heart prevention? And so I detailed it to them. And basically it boiled down to, you have to take the initiative and go learn and use your brain. I mean, you got into veterinary school because you're a pretty smart cookie. So stop taking the drug reps and word for it and learn how to help your patients. And that's really the hardest part, is getting people, our colleagues, to get out there and learn some new tricks, so to speak.
Yeah,
so that's it. It is critical, but I hope so, because what they're finding is that, different pieces and parts are going away from their practice, and they really do need to start learning to help other patients. And then Lily has another great question, which is, what raw bones do you recommend for small dogs for cleaning the teeth? And I think that's
Mm.
because our colleagues say never, ever, ever feed bones, but
Yeah, I love raw bones. I think that for small dogs, I would use like chicken wings or chicken necks. And you probably want to hold it for a while and just get them to just chew and chew and chew. And if you've ever noticed, a raw fed dog never has bad teeth. Never. They just don't. One, because it's low carbohydrate, so they don't have um, the sugar sticking to their teeth and beginning the biofilm, kind of this cascade of events that occurs. But the other is when they chew down on that raw bone, it's soft and plastic. And so the tooth can go all the way through. And then when it comes out, it's like nature's toothbrush. So
yes.
I absolutely love raw bones for dogs. And I would say for a little dog, go with like a chicken wing and start maybe with the end of the wing, holding on to it until he learns to chew and chew and chew and chew. And then you can cut it off and give him it. He can definitely eat it because that would give him all this amazing bone marrow and amazing organic calcium and fabulous glucosamine and hyaluronic acid from the joints as well.
Right. And what we used to do for our little doxy Mona is just get the big shank bones, but just cut off a tiny piece so that she could get it in her mouth and really gnaw and gnaw and gnaw. And I think it is so helpful for dogs with anxiety too, because they finally have a way to kind of get it out.
Yeah.
So for pets that really um, have a problem, that's been a great solution. But I think what you're saying is right. Don't let them just sort of take off with it. That's when we tend to get into
I
trouble.
worry that they could
Yeah,
choke it,
exactly,
you know,
exactly. And
gulp it down
in
like
general,
kibble because they're not used to eating real
exactly.
food.
Exactly. And I think even with cooked food, that was one of the things I started noticing with my clients' pets when I started teaching them how to cook. Their teeth were spotless. And again, because they're actually chewing, and as you said, it's not a super high processed carbohydrate diet. They're not eating Cheetos. And
Yeah.
so the gut bacteria is happier. So the whole microbiome, starting from the mouth down, stays normalized. So
Yeah.
it's so critical. And it's astonishing. We've got a little poodle now who has 2 teeth. She has 2 canine teeth, but this little girl will chew on, lamb rib bones because they're delicious, evidently, and it really helps with her anxiety too. So
Nice.
it's been wonderful. Yeah, and Lily's got a Cairn and a Cocker, so probably, Lily, you could use bones that are a little bit bigger for the Cocker if he's a good sized one. The Cairn Terrier, I think Dr. Bessent's suggestion of the chicken wings is a great place to start too. So I like to ask folks that I interview this, if you had the opportunity to advise people to make one change in their the way they help their pets, what would that change be?
Get off of kibble
Amen.
and feed fresh food. And whether it's cooked, whether it's freeze dried, whether it just has to be real food. I mean, it's crazy how low the bar is for nutrition in pets. It's it's crazy. And we've all bought into it. We've all bought into this idea that you shouldn't feed anything but kibble. That's absolutely nuts. That's someday I think you and I are
Yeah.
going to look back at this and laugh and think, how did we get convinced of this? So if you could do one thing, it would be add fresh food to your dog's diet. And if you can get off a kibble, get off a kibble. And
Amen.
but that's a big ask. It is a big ask. I appreciate that.
It is, but there's also ways to do it piece by piece. I mean, we know your pet's best health starts in the bowl. And so you can do it by adding whatever approach you think is going to work best for your pet. A little bit of the simple food that Dr. Bessent makes, a little bit of fresh vegetables, and just start. And what you'll find, I mean, now that some of these bags of food are up to $100, $150 a pop, this is where you can really make a huge difference
And if you
and
really
lower your pet food bill. Yeah,
exactly,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
if you really do the math and you keep an eye out for good deals at your grocery store, it's not that much more expensive, quite honestly.
No,
If $100 for a bag of dog food, but you could, when turkey's on sale, buy a bunch of it and freeze it. And when chicken's on sale, buy a bunch of that and freeze it. Go to your local butcher. And there's so many parts they just throw away. That is
yeah,
crazy that you don't use it. So chicken hearts and chicken liver and organ meats are so valuable and rich in nutrition for pets that
yes,
are just disposed of. And part of what I do with Simple Food Project and with Wisconsin Freeze Dried is take those bits and parts that are not utilized in human food production and put them, they're healthy, vibrant, wonderful material that we could use for pet food. So all the different organs, how humans, of an animal that is slaughtered, humans eat between 40 to 50% of the tissue. The rest of that animal gets just disposed of and gets thrown into a big vat with all other icky stuff like like the colon and intestines, where if we could selectively take that material out and add it back into our pet's food, it's really, really nutritious food that is just getting wasted every single day in our human food system. So and I was kind of tasked with this as well, as I'm sure you've had as well. Excuse me, that there are humans that don't have enough food, that don't have enough protein. So you could say, well, how can you justify doing a fabulous chicken breast and giving it to your dog versus giving it to a child? I say, how much of that animal that is slaughtered is not being utilized properly? And if we could utilize that properly, like chicken necks, for example, we were just talking about that. What happens to chicken necks? Thrown away because humans don't eat them. But it's
yep,
fabulous material that we could use every single day. So get a relationship with your butcher or a local butcher that is going to just throw those bits and parts away, and it's all free that you could utilize and your dog would do fabulous with.
right. And that's critical. And I think that is going to become more and more of an issue is sustainability because we are, I mean, the Ukraine is demonstrating how fragile our food chains are. And when
Absolutely.
it comes down to it, do you feed your dog or do you feed your child? And that's when people are going to have to start making really hard decisions. But as you said,
Unless
I mean, the bag of food was an advent of the 50s and just massive marketing to convince us that this was the way to go. Plus, well, a lot of other stuff too. But I mean, Mark Morris was trying to help pets during World War II by creating the forerunner of all the bagged food as an emergency ration, and somehow that stuck. But I mean, this is no more the best option or the option that has withstood the test of time for animals than fly to the moon. So it's going to be super important. But yeah, go talk to your local butcher. There's an astonishing array of things that you can add into pet food regardless of how you choose to make it. So right on. Well, Dr. Bessent, this has been a delight and a pleasure. And here's another thing here. Lily's asking before we cut off, I just have to throw this one up here. Should they be organic? I think that would be wonderful, but frankly, I can't afford, at current meat prices, I can't afford to feed organic. What's your
I
thought?
would agree 100%. If it can be organic, absolutely. If it can't, then cage free. But you're right. It's difficult, difficult enough to get fresh food in, much less making sure of the quality. But I'm a strong believer in organic, and anytime for Simple Food Project, for example, anytime we can go organic, we do. And certainly
Right on.
all our fruits and vegetables are organic.
Right. And that's it. I mean, I think, Lily, the other thing you can do, she's saying, the prices are crazy right now because of the avian flu that's out there. Um, if you can't get organic, what I would do is take as much of the fat out of the meat and,
Mm,
sadly dispose of it, because that's where all the garbage is. That's where the things are that are going to hurt your pet, and then add healthy fats back in.
excellent
So,
point.
but that is, I mean, this is becoming more and more crucial with the avian flu. Chicken prices are going to escalate, and then beef, and then pork as well. So again, Dr. Bessent, thank you so much for joining today. It is great to hear a different perspective in the world. And for those of you that are not familiar with Herbsmith Inc., we'll put a link to that website there. And then we are also carrying your over-the-counter products on our website, because you are doing such a fabulous job with getting the appropriate amount of out of each ingredient, as you say, truly a therapeutic dose into those supplements. And I know that the quality in your facility is there, so that what's being delivered is the best for our guys. So I'm Dr. Ruth Roberts, your pet's ally. Until next time, remember, your pet's best health